And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Wednesday, February 4th, 1:07 in the afternoon. Temperatures outside right around that 20-degree mark. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, and Bridgette Readel has a day off. She's at Agronomy on Ice, and she is busy up north, and I'll tell you what, that sounds like a pretty good time. You ever been up there, Addison, for Agronomy on Ice?
I can't say I have.
It really is pretty cool.
Maybe one day.
It really is pretty cool. And so, Bridgette, much-deserved day off, but we will be having Gary Lezak join us shortly, and we're going to be talking the LRC. And if you're not familiar with what the LRC is, Gary will go over that and how he founded it and how it works and what our weather, how it is going to impact our weather for the rest of this upcoming winter and also into spring as well. So more on that in just a little bit, but we've got some improving weather across the area here. Now today, a lot warmer than yesterday. We only made it into the teens yesterday. Today, we're still going to hang on to the cloud cover, but temperatures are a little bit warmer. We're already right around 20 degrees across the area, and we'll make it up into the mid-20s today with a north wind at about 10 to 20. So that'll add a little bit of a bite to the air. Then as we head into tonight, we'll see a few breaks in the clouds. In fact, as we head towards evening, we'll probably see a few breaks in the clouds. And then partly cloudy overnight tonight. We'll drop down into the low 20s and then see temperatures actually start to rise as we head towards morning. And that will lead to a warmer day on Thursday, with temperatures right around the upper 30s to near 40. Not a bad day tomorrow with a little more sunshine and winds out of the northwest at about 5 to 15. And then a cold front swings through with a clipper system Thursday night. Now, we're not going to see any precip from that. May squeeze out a flurry, but that's about it. But breezy conditions behind that front out of the north on Friday. That will usher in some cooler weather with highs only around 20. And then the winds turn to the south on Saturday on the breezy side, with temperatures climbing into the mid to upper 20s, kind of similar to today. And then temperatures a little warmer on Sunday, back into the 30s before cooler weather settles in as we head into next week. Now, according to the LRC, and again, we'll be talking with Gary about this, we are going to start to turn in to a stormier part of the LRC cycle. Now, January was one of those dry months where we only picked up about 6 inches of snow. That was about it across the area for the whole month. Now, the pattern that we're going into over the next, let's say, starting next week through the end of the month and into early March, that is mimicking what we had towards the end of November through about Christmas time. And during that time, we had about 2 or 3 storms that affected the area with about 8 to 9 inches of snow between those 2 to 3 storms. So that same pattern has cycled back, and that's what we're going to see here going mid-February through that first week in March. Now, typically once you get towards this time of the year, those storm systems tend to be a little stronger than they were maybe in November and December. You have more of a temperature contrast, which fuels those storms. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that as we head into the middle of this month through that first week in March. And then it looks like we start to turn into the drier part of the LRC cycle later in March, and no big storms on the horizon after that. And I'll tell you what, it'll be curious to see what Gary thinks, but everything I'm seeing, it looks like a pretty quick start to spring as we turn the calendar into April. If you have any questions for Gary when he joins us here, 701-293-9000, or you can email me, weather@flagfamily.com. Again, that's weather@flagfamily.com. This is a perfect time to kind of pick Gary's mind on what he sees for our area. And one of the questions that I've got for Gary is, we've had record dry weather, historically dry weather up and down the Rockies. They've never had so small of a snowpack from Colorado up into western Canada. And does that translate into the spring and summer I don't know if you remember Addison last summer, the summer before, with all the wildfire smoke coming out of Western Canada.
That was a great time.
How it kind of ruined our summer.
Just the summer, it ruined everything.
Yeah. So the question is, are the dry conditions going to continue into summer for those areas? And if that is the case, are we going to be dealing with more wildfire smoke that'll be pouring into the area over the summer? Let's hope that pattern changes. I haven't had a close eye on Western Canada. I know it's been dry. I don't know if it's been dry as the Colorado Rockies, but once again, that will be something that we'll be talking with Gary about. Again, 701-293-9000 if you have any questions. And again, you can email us also, weather@flagfamily.com. So we're going to let's take break a few minutes early here, Addison. Gary is just joining us. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Gary Lezak, the founder of the LRC. We'll be talking about what the rest of the winter looks like and take kind of a peek into the spring and beyond. All of that coming up right after the break. All right, welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:21 in the afternoon. And want to thank everybody for joining us. And like to welcome back a returning guest, your friend and ours, Gary Lezak, the founder of the LRC. Gary, welcome back. How's your day going, man?
Doing great, Dean. Great to talk to you. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. We're enjoying some warmer weather today in the 20s, so we'll take what we can get. But we've been lacking snow. We're down about 11 inches. We're down on the season so far.
Wow.
We've had a bunch of these literally mini blizzards with just a couple inches of snow, but 40, 45 mile an hour winds, which basically brings everything to a halt in terms of visibility. But other than that, we really haven't had that one big storm, that one Colorado low that's come up and really affected the area. I think the biggest snowfall we've had so far this season has been a little over 4 inches. That's it. So it's been another. This is the third winter where we really haven't had a whole lot just yet, but we still have a little ways to go. So for anybody new joining us, Gary, we've talked about the LRC, and many of our viewers, they know exactly what it is. Some have subscribed to your service, especially in our ag community, which this can really help our ag community out. But if somebody's not familiar with the LRC, quick cliff notes. What is the LRC?
Yeah, I'll try to explain it a little bit differently and more simply, but what happens every fall, a unique weather pattern sets up. In other words, one that has never happened before. The pattern we are in now has never happened before. And there are so many characteristics to it that are so unique. And you're sort of experiencing it up in North Dakota this winter. Yeah, it gets cold. Yeah, you get the small blizzard, mini blizzards as you're calling it. But this pattern is bizarre. So point is, the pattern sets up a unique one every fall, and then a cycle length evolves. This year happens to be 10 to 11 weeks, which is the second longest cycle ever.
Wow.
Maybe the longest cycle ever. And it repeats over and over again. So if you had a storm December 1st, then around January, February, about February the 15th, right around Valentine's Day, that's part of the pattern that produced that storm will return. So this is almost 100%. The part of the pattern that produced a storm system on December 1st is going to return to Kansas City, for example. Kansas City had 3 to 5 inches of snow on December 1st. That part of the pattern is coming back. That doesn't mean it will produce 3 to 5 inches of snow again, but the potential is there, and that part of the pattern will happen. That is nearly 100%. But then predicting if that storm is going to be rain or snow, is it going to be cold enough or warm enough, that depends on a few other factors that are also important. But that's what the LRC is. Then you have Enzo, El Nino or La Nina. El Nino is the warming of the tropical Pacific Ocean, and La Nina is the cooling. And that is influencing the pattern. We've had a weak La Nina situation for the last few months, and that allows storm systems to come in from northwest to southeast primarily. And that's why you've been having the small snowstorms and nothing major. Some shifts in that will happen in March and April, and hopefully you don't get one big wallop of a snowstorm, but it is possible. Still one more chance of that happening. But overall, the smaller events are likely. But that's what the LRC is all about.
Right. And like you said, it's kind of the central piece to the atmospheric puzzle. And if you want, can you put that graphic up real quick, Addison? Because, yeah, there's other influences, but the LRC, as we're showing right there, is definitely the central piece to the puzzle. Now, Gary, one of our listeners shot in an email question. We've got the LRC calendar that we put out in pocket calendar form, and we've got it right here. And one of the dates highlighted on here was this coming weekend, and one of our listeners pointed that out. They said, now, okay, we follow the LRC, and it has been accurate to a T. However, this weekend was slated to have a potential larger storm system enter the northern plains. While now it looks like it is going to be quiet. What happened? So,
well, that was a good question. I mean, first of all, this is difficult. I personally tend to raise the bar very high. And if you overpromise, that's not good. Then you tend to underdeliver.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult for me to not overpromise because, as I told you, that the part of the pattern that produces the storm is going to cycle back through. However, we have in our model that calendar shows about a 73-day cycle calculation. It is just stretched to 76 to 77 days. So things that were expected to happen on the calendar could be 4 days off, 1 week off, possibly.
Okay.
And then in the next cycle, it'll slip back. But point is, I want that to be right for you. I'm glad that you've noticed it's been spot on. There's going to be times it's spot on. What you're looking at there on that calendar is our global predictor. That is without any human influence. That we just put in the cycle length and let it run. In the future, that will get better. However, it's good that the perception is that it's accurate enough, but it's not going to be perfect. So this one event may not happen. I'm not going to make excuses for it.
Right.
I'd have to go look and do an analysis. Maybe it's 4 or 5 days later where the storm's coming in, or the next weekend, because the pattern slipped off that cycle. When the pattern does slip off that cycle, that doesn't mean it as what it's saying. It'll bounce back. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all predictable as we go into the summer. But yeah, I don't like to disappoint people, but we're not perfect.
Exactly. And you know what? And I think most people know that, and they do realize that. We were at a company function last night, and I don't know how many people I had come up to me saying, "We love this LRC. You know, thank you so much. It's really helped us plan our vacations and whatnot." And we're getting ready to go into the more active part of the LRC cycle, Gary, and we've known that for over a month, and now our medium range models are starting to pick up on this. We're going to start getting this western trough, which typically turns us a little bit stormier, and so I went back and looked at. So this would mimic the pattern that was roughly the end of November through just before Christmas. So I kind of went back and looked at what we had during that period. We had 3 storms during that about 3.5 week period. None of them particularly big. All 3 storms added up to about 10 inches of snow. So we'll see how that pans out here over the next 3 to 4 weeks. But looking on the LRC calendar, or on your website, weather2020.com, the global predictor same thing. We had the potential for, especially early March, the potential for a bigger storm system entering the northern plains, and then I believe there was one right after Valentine's Day as well, if I'm not mistaken, for our area. In regards to snowfall for the season, we're down about 11 inches, and I believe when we came on at the start of the season, we all gave our snowfall total predictions, which we were still looking at a little below average for our area. Are you still thinking the same thing for our area, about maybe 40 inches or so?
Yeah, probably. I think you're going to end up under a little bit unless you get that one big wallop of a storm from one of these. Can you see my screen? Does Addison have my screen up?
Is that, yep, we've got that up, Gary.
So if you can see my screen, what we're looking at here is this is from our Weather 2020 dashboard, and hundreds of farmers around the United States now have this in their tool chest. It doesn't cost that much if you're interested. Just let us know. But on this chart, I called up North Dakota that you can see here and Cass County in your area, and I went day by day. If you go day by day, as we go to the first week of March, on March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, again, these could be out by a couple of days because this is a forecast from 70 days earlier.
Right. And
it shows a storm in the first week of March, a second storm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row with precipitation. So it probably will be 3 or 4 of those days, but there's a storm around right before the middle of the month. Right on St. Patrick's Day, there's a little system coming through. You can see everything that goes above this line is precipitation. So storm in early March, storm in mid-March, then a little dry spell, and then a big storm April 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So that could be a bigger storm. So when you see these go above there, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 storm systems that are in your forecast in the next couple of months. And then this next chart shows temperatures. Notice it's another cold spell the first week of March due in, dropping down to near zero, and then it warms up. In fact, I go to this product called Growing Degree Days. A lot of you farmers out there know that. Growing Degree Days. Notice how you don't have any until about
Look at that shoot
March
up in
22nd.
in April.
You
Wow.
see that?
Woof.
And then it goes back down. And if I were to change the date range and let's just go to the end of May. This is a really cool tool. I'm telling you, you can do the same thing I'm doing, and it doesn't take very long to learn. And then you push apply down. This is the forecast through May. The first thing is it calls it up. This is just for Cass County. I can call up all of North Dakota, but it shows 7.4 inches of liquid precipitation between now and May, and that is 100% of average. That is about what you average. If I switch to just all of North Dakota, then you can see here in North Dakota, here it comes on this map that comes up. It shows 7.7 inches liquid in northwest North Dakota, 10.9 inches, which is 170%, almost double average rainfall in southwestern North Dakota. But it's a cool little product, but you can see the storm systems that are going to be coming through.
And this helps our ag community with, timing out planting, if when the wet cycles will be, when the drier cycles will be. So this helps our ag community out tremendously as we head into growing season. No doubt.
As I said, hundreds of farmers are using it. And one thing that we are able to do is it going to be, you talk about an early spring. I'm concerned about freeze in the second half of April. So an early spring still will have some problems with it, but
it always has a bump in the road.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, we're at the bottom of the hour break, Gary. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's focus on. I know you hit March, and let's hit on the rest of this month, and into. We already kind of highlighted early March and the month of March. Let's hit on the month of February and see what we have left for this month as well. And if you have any questions for Gary or myself, 701-293-9000, or you can shoot us an email, weather@flagfamily.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Wednesday, February 4th, 1:37 in the afternoon. Joining us this afternoon, our returning guest, Gary Lezak, the founder of the LRC, Lezak Recurring Cycle, which is a cycling weather pattern that we use each year. Every year is a different pattern. And as Gary said earlier, this is one of the longest patterns, longest length of the LRC that he's seen. So roughly about 73 days, Gary, and it's been another quiet winter around here, and this is the third winter in a row, and we're not the only ones. Boy, record dry weather in the Rockies. In fact, ski resorts in Colorado are just they're in pain. Record low snowfall totals out there due to that anchor ridge that just is hard to break down. And how is this going to affect? We've had a couple of email questions. The last couple of summers, we've had that wildfire smoke from Western Canada. This dry weather goes all the way up into Western Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Is this going to affect the summer in terms of wildfires up in Western Canada where we have to deal with that smoke again?
This anchor ridge that you talked about, what is an anchor ridge? An anchor ridge is where it's hard to see on the maps, but I can draw it in, and it extends from Texas up across Colorado, western Kansas and Nebraska, up into Montana, but it sort of phases, it goes into Montana. The last 3 years in Colorado, there has been almost no fire season. There's almost no way that happens this year.
Right.
It is so dry up in the mountains. It's winter, but Breckenridge, Colorado ski area, they average about 300 inches of snow per year per season, and they're at about 80 right now. They're going to end up with 180 inches, probably 150. So it's 50% of average. Very bad news for the reservoirs, the Colorado River Reservoir heading downstream towards Arizona and those areas. That's going to be a big impact. But then for North Dakota, the fires, if they're farther south, there's a chance you won't get as much smoke. The smoke for you guys is when it really hits Canada. Probably won't be as bad in Canada this summer as the last 2 years. We've had 2 straight years where that smoke was significant from Canada. I think it's going to be a little bit less, but it's going to be a little bit worse farther south of you because of Colorado and Wyoming fires that are likely to be bad.
Gotcha. Now let's come back closer to home here. For we kind of went over what it looks like for March and into April. Where we're going to have a couple of significant systems with rainfall average, as you showed earlier, well above normal in the southwestern part of the state, and even a little above normal into the northeastern corner, but pretty close to average in our area. What about for the rest of the month of February? What is the global predictor of the LRC showing in terms of snowfall? We've got a lot of snowmobile enthusiasts up here that just haven't had a really good chance to get out and ride in some fresh powder. What's the rest of the month look like?
I know. There's, depends on what model you look at. If we look at the GFS or American model, it has one big storm system, but I don't buy it yet because the other models don't have it. Let me just call it up here and just see here. It's about, okay, it comes across you right after Valentine's Day, a big storm centered right over Fargo, actually. That would be on the 16th of February, and it produces, if that is right at all, it has a band of 1 foot snow from south central North Dakota, just northwest of Cass County, so just north of you, about 6 to 12 inches of snow from that storm, and only 1 inch in Fargo area. But that's what that model has. The point is, right now, that's around the 16th, just 10, 12, 14 days from now. So the next 2 weeks, we'll look for that storm. It could track a little bit farther south or a little bit farther north. So that's one system that's going to come across. But overall, not too much besides that one system, weaker systems. So precipitation will probably be in those mini blizzard category rather than the big storm, unless that one comes together right after Valentine's Day.
And I believe the global predictor had something after Valentine's Day. I think it was between Valentine's Day and the 21st around here. Is that correct?
That's this storm.
That's
the
storm
one that's showing up.
Okay.
It's showing up on the American model, but on the On the other models, I don't see it yet. Let me see if the Canadian model has anything. The Canadian model has a storm near the North Dakota-Canada border, but yeah, a little bit weaker.
And those mid-range models flip-flop back and forth constantly. I was looking at it the other day. It had over 17 and a half inches plastered across the central part of the state for that same storm system just after Valentine's Day. So again, we'll see how that. We know something's going to be in the area according to the global predictor. That's the good thing. We know we're going to have something across the state during that time frame. So we'll see how that kind of irons out. Again, if you have any questions for Gary or myself, 701-293-9000. That's 701-293-9000. Gary, with the ag community, we're looking at a drier than normal winter so far. We'll see how that kind of pans out. But for our ag community, as we go into spring and summer, are you worried at all about drought conditions in our area? It seems like everything seems to be panning out to be pretty close to normal in terms of precip. Do you see that extending through the summer months as well?
Yeah, Dean, droughts. I say this every year. Last year, we made the accurate call the last 4 years. For you, right here on WDAY, we've been able to predict accurately this one big factor on do you need drought insurance or not.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we predicted that it would likely be a pretty good year without any major drought concerns, and that's what it turned out to be. Because the first thing to notice, and I talk about it in our reports, but the first thing to notice is, are droughts increasing or decreasing? If drought conditions are decreasing, that trend will likely continue. Last year, they started decreasing in March and April, and that trend continued. This year, right now, just so everyone knows, there's a drought centered over Nebraska. It's back over dry areas anyway, western Nebraska, and it's related to Colorado being dry. Some of the ski areas have what's called a D4 drought in central Colorado. But that drought centered over Nebraska is expanding. It is expanding right now. So in the next 6 weeks, as we go, since the groundhog said we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter, in the last 6 weeks of winter, because we always have 6 more weeks of winter, by the way, February 2nd. February 2nd on Groundhog's Day. It happens to be 6 weeks before spring. So that's why the groundhog should see a shadow every year.
Right.
But in the next 6 weeks, we'll monitor it week by week, and we'll discuss later. But will that drought centered over Nebraska expand into South Dakota, expand towards Iowa, expand towards northern Kansas? If it continues to expand, there's a reason for that. The pattern that we're in would cause that expansion, and that pattern then would repeat, and then the spring version looks drier. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that's something to look for. It might start shrinking in the next 6 weeks, and then we'll make that call. But right now, just know it is expanding. It has been expanding since this pattern began in October. And so it hasn't shown any signs that it's shrinking, but it's still small. It's centered right over Nebraska. Western Nebraska is like, parts of Nebraska have had like 2 inches of snow the whole winter.
Oh, it's been, super, super dry. So you're not foreseeing any major drought conditions, even if it does expand. You think that will stay to the south of North Dakota into western Minnesota for this upcoming growing season?
Likely. Okay. However, let's see if it starts expanding
over the next.
We might have to make. You want to make an adjustment there. Right. Another thing is that this anchor ridge, that, as I said, it's hard to see that's causing the fact that's. Do you know how much snow Salt Lake City's had? Did you see that? Salt Lake City.
It's what is it? It's under 50 inches, isn't it?
Well, they average 40 inches a year.
Right.
And they've had 0.1.
Oh, I didn't know it was that low. Holy cow.
And right now they average about 30 inches by now. So that's sort of a sign of why we're going to have a high fire problem unless something turns around real quickly. But this is the whole point of the LRC. That usually does not happen. So we'll monitor that closely.
So we have to keep an eye on this western trough. So the ridge has been anchored over the Rockies. When that breaks down and we get these storm systems moving into the Rockies, which we're starting to see that pattern evolve, that we're getting into that part of the LRC pattern, it appears. that's going to be our wild card. We have to get the precip out of that if we're going to get the adequate snowfall and rainfall going into spring.
But Dean, the thing is that the LRC sets up in the fall, all right? The unique pattern that we are in now, and it's cycling, and it does not end till next fall. So we're in this pattern. It is not going to change. Now, the impacts, the spring version of the pattern, the summer version of the pattern, is something to watch closely. We've already made a forecast on the first day of winter on December 21st. We analyzed and predicted that there was going to be one major heat wave that's going to be centered right near that Nebraska dry area, Kansas, and expanding your way. The question is, how long will it last? Will it be 7 days long or 15 days long? We don't want a 15-day long one.
No.
But that is a forecast centered right at the hottest time of the year, August 1st. Yeah, it's the hottest time of the year, but I'm not saying it's going to be 90 in places that are 90. It's going to be 102 in places that it's the average is 94. It'll be 105, and places where the average is 87, it'll be near 100. So during that stretch, so August 1st, write it down. That is a pretty strong likelihood. And then remember, 10 weeks to 11 weeks is the cycle. What is 10 to 11 weeks before August 1st? It's mid-May. So in mid-May, we're going to look for this heat wave creating machine possibly that could start developing. It's usually too early for that to happen in May, but that'll be something we can monitor. And if it comes close to doing that at all in May, then it'll increase the probability of it happening around August 1st.
Gotcha. Well, Gary, we want to thank you for joining us. If anybody is interested in signing up for the LRC and the Global Predictor, like you said, there's a lot in our ag community. This has really helped with their operations. What's the best way they can get a hold of you or sign up for the LRC?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Great to be on with you guys. Looking forward to the next time. And I'm speaking at the National Storm Chaser Summit that's here in Denver on Friday and going over all of the above and predicting severe weather season. It's going to be very interesting severe weather season, which we'll talk about in our next one. But if you want to follow it, in about a year's time, you will learn weather2020.substack.com. Weather2020.substack.com. That is $300 a year. But if you join right now, I'll go look in the next 15 minutes. I'll give you a lifetime membership. So just let me know.
Hey,
you have to join the next 10 minutes, though. And it's one of those really, truly the next 10 minutes. Okay. I'm going to be busy after that.
Up until 2 o'clock. All right. Well, Gary, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be talking again as we get a little closer to spring, and we'll kind of get an outlook on what the rest of, if anything's changed with this upcoming spring and summer, if that's still holding true. And hopefully we get a little more snow around here. And again, we're starting to get into a little more of that active part of the LRC cycle. So for our snow lovers, hang tight. We do have more coming later this month. All right. Gary, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm glad you love snow, because there's got to be some people out there that don't agree with you.
Oh, I know there is. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, when we come back, we'll have a recap of our weather, and we'll kind of take a peek into next week and talk about those snow chances. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And we normally have Wednesday weather trivia, but we're going to push that off till tomorrow. We ran a little long with Gary. That's all right. So you'll want to be listening tomorrow for our Wednesday weather trivia for your chance to win that Darter Plastic Bait-Up Cup. So interesting discussion with Gary on what the rest of the winter holds. Again, there's a couple of peak storm periods. One as we head into after Valentine's Day of this month, the very end of the month into that first part of March, where we saw a large spike in precip. And then I believe Gary had another spike in precip later in March, and then that one big one possible in April as well. So we're not done with the snow. We've got 20 inches so far. It's still, I'm still thinking we're going to have around 40, 45 inches of snow for a seasonal total. And again, if one of those major system hits us, and as Gary was saying, the LRC had something right after Valentine's Day, between shortly after Valentine's Day and about the 22nd of the month. And our medium range models are starting to pick up on that now as well. So we'll see how that one pans out. Other than that, just a bunch of these 2 to 4 inch snowfall events during this month, which adds up, but we're not seeing any snow in the short term. We are looking at pretty quiet weather here as we head into the weekend. We're looking at cloudy skies for most of the rest of the day. I think we'll see a few breaks towards sunset with highs in the mid-20s and those north winds at about 10 to 15. Tonight, we'll see a few breaks in the clouds, low 20s, and then temperatures rising towards morning. And as we head into your Thursday, we are looking at partly cloudy skies and warmer, upper 30s to near 40 tomorrow, with the west-northwest wind at about 10 to 15. And then a cold front comes through, and that'll usher in some colder air for Friday. Pretty windy conditions out of the northwest, 15 to 25. So might be dealing with a little blowing snow issue on Friday, with highs only around 20. And then as we head into the weekend, we'll start to warm things up a little bit. Breezy south winds on Saturday, so a couple of breezy days Friday, Saturday, with temperatures in the 20s on Saturday. Should warm it back up into the 30s on Sunday. And then next week, a couple of weak systems moving in here. Doesn't look like a big deal. Between Monday and Wednesday, we'll have a couple of weak weather systems moving in here. And then we get a little closer to Valentine's Day, and that's when we're starting to see these storm systems move into the west. And again, we'll see if the track stays to our south or if we get these stronger Colorado lows, which a couple of our models are indicating. The LRC did indicate that, the potential for one of those Colorado lows coming up our way after the Valentine's Day period. So again, probably between about the 18th and the 24th is a kind of a key time frame of one of those potential bigger systems coming our way. And then again, the end of the month into the first week in March. And again, like Gary said, we're on about a 73 to 78 day cycle. It's been kind of going back and forth. So on the LRC calendar, if it's the longer part of this cycle, we could be pushing that off a few days, but we're in that general time frame where we're starting to get into that stormier part of the LRC cycle before we dry things back out after that first week in March. So enjoy the relatively nice weather over the next few days into the weekend, but don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, that's coming up next.